in the court of law, right?
Yeah, that's right. So you should see that the meeting is now recording. So watch what you say. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see which one I want to share right now. We'll just do the main screen. And then toggle over to my Super Saturday folder. So I think I've shared this folder with everybody. If not, I can reshare. I have a few items in here that I think you'll find helpful for the day. You know, obviously the curriculum sample is still in here. The full curriculum is in here. There's a list of the Super Saturday supplies. I know Heather has already secured a few of those things by borrowing them from other individuals, and then we're doing an Amazon purchase today for what she couldn't get otherwise. Then over here, I think this document is what I would like for us to spend the bulk of our time today just kind of talking through, making sure everyone feels comfortable with your assignments.
Bless you.
At the last count, when I checked with with Kevin, there were 35 young people signed up for this coming Saturday. So I'm thinking we probably want to do 3 to 4 groups, depending on how many people are there. We may end up needing to combine. I know I think there will be some natural attrition towards the end of the day, but I think at the same time, I know that several staff members need to head out at the end of the day. And just so you know what happened there, apparently Heather and Jason had settled on a 4 o'clock end time, but Kevin's understanding was that it was a 5 o'clock end time, and that's what he communicated to families before anybody caught it or knew that there were 2 different end times. I only knew what Kevin had told me until I heard pushback from other folks who told me differently. And so I raised that question, and we were able to figure out where the core of the issue was on that. So the schedule that I put together accounts for a 9 to 5. But again, as I said, you know, I think we would anticipate some attrition. Gina, thanks for joining us. Good to see you, or at least see your name on the screen. So just so you know, this meeting is being recorded. So I told them to watch what they say, because, well, you know.
Because Big Brother is watching us?
What's that?
Because Big Brother is watching us?
That's right. Big Brother is watching you. That's exactly right. There you are.
Ah,
Good morning.
hey, guys.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good.
Good.
You?
So Gina, we have blocked off from 9 to 11. Drew has to jump off at 10. I'm going to try to do my best to move through the plan for the day and at least address any burning questions that folks may have before that time. We can continue after 10, but I do want to make sure Drew gets as much information as possible. So I was pointing out that the schedule is going to run from 9 to 5. We're anticipating 35 plus students. I wouldn't imagine it would be much more than 40. And so I'm thinking probably 4 groups if we can pull it off. I know I have some of my GIS 4-Hers who are going to be volunteering throughout the day. Had a couple of the LITs, actually one LIT and one LIT mom say that they can volunteer. And I am hopeful that we'll be able, with the staff from whatever their department's called, and us combined, we should have some pretty good coverage.
Thomas?
Yes, sir.
Hold on, I have a special guest that's joining us. I have to get a chair for this person who is joining over here. A special guest star live from Raleigh, North Carolina.
It's a chair. Oh, hi, Emma.
Hey, all right, good. I'm glad you could join us, Emma.
Oh, trying to get through the meeting before I got here.
I didn't know she was joining us over here.
No, I didn't.
Is she not going to sit beside you?
Did you get
Yeah,
Oh, there she comes. Okay.
Drew doesn't bite, Emma.
What?
Actually, Tex, that's not true. You shouldn't share false information.
Oh, okay.
Drew does bite. All right. So, Emma, we're kind of looking through the agenda for the day, and then we're going to spend some time diving into the curriculum a little bit more so folks feel comfortable with the activities, or at least aware of what the activities are, whether or not they're necessarily comfortable with them.
Right.
So the way I kind of see things rolling out is that folks will be coming in between 9 and 9:30. Kevin and his team are providing breakfast, and I see registration taking place along with the breakfast time so that we can go ahead and get things rocking and rolling around 9:30. We know that the young people won't be satisfied sitting there waiting for us for very long. So, and then I see going ahead and from 9:30 to 9:45, breaking up into those groups, however those may be. I think we have 4 or 5 slightly older ones, and I'm thinking divvying those up throughout the groups, and then they could play some kind of a leadership role as well, hopefully helping with some of the activities as we need them. Maybe they could be runners, that kind of thing, if we need.
With that, Thomas, is that those kids that are literally like Maquasia are assigned to be LITs for that role, or are you thinking if they're older youth that's because that has been a huge no-no in the past?
Yeah, I think if they're older youth, they can be helpers for the day. And you're saying that that's been a no-no?
Well, are they coming in knowing that role?
I can't understand you. Are they what in that role?
They know that coming on Saturday that they are going to be helping rather than having their own.
No, that hasn't been communicated ahead of time.
You know, when we did Kia, when we only had a couple older kids, they helped out with the younger kids, and that wasn't a problem.
Okay, because I just ended up with 6 Saturdays in the past. It's been a really important for the teens to feel like they had their own activity rather than being literally in their own terms used to look after little kids.
Okay.
So
Well, that's something.
Yeah, so
I definitely think if
have very purposeful.
I think you're sitting too far back from the mic, and you're just really breaking up, and I can't understand what you're saying.
Okay. If they're going to be in that role, for them to be aware of that ahead of time, but those pieces that they have are very clearly defined and an important part. And they don't feel like they're just there to babysit, to look after and watch and monitor, that kind of thing. But they really have purposeful reason for being in that if they're not going to have their own set of activities.
But they can assist, the leader of that group, and the leader of the group can have them do different things. I totally understand what you're saying, and I think it's a great leadership opportunity for the older kids. So it's not like they're not going to learn anything. They will be learning some leadership skills.
Yeah, if you give them the responsibility.
So I have a question. What is the training like that you've already done with these teens?
So we've got some LITs like Marquasia.
I beg your pardon?
So
I don't know if Marquasia is one of them.
Huh?
I don't know if Marquasia is one of the kids coming.
I talked to her mom,
No.
and she signed up to do it online, and
No.
she had already set that up. She's definitely coming. Peyton's going to be there too. But I don't know the other other teens that are going to be there.
So I guess I'm confused, Emma, about which young people you're referencing. Are you referencing the LITs?
Yeah, LIT.
Or the older?
Letitia is Marquasia's mother.
Yes, she is. And so she was going to get back with me and tell me whether or not Marquasia was going to help also, but Mom volunteered to help for the day. Well, here, I don't want us to get hung up on this point right now, especially between now and 10 o'clock when Drew has to go. So I think that's a very valuable point. I don't think we intend on anybody sitting around and babysitting at all throughout the day. This is going to be a very active day, and every activity is going to be up and moving. And I think we can just be very clear with the helper roles. I was specifically referencing the older participants, not the LITs who are coming in to volunteer for the day. The volunteers are fully or have been asked to help in a role for the day. I incorrectly misinterpreted and thought you were referencing the older youth who are coming as part of the program. One of the relative caregiver youth, or there are like 4 or 5 middle schoolish relative caregiver youth that are 13 and up. And so those are the ones that I was referencing there. Thank you. So the first activity is sensory safari. And if you've taken a few minutes to look through the curriculum, you'll quickly recognize that we are literally walking through the backyards and beyond curriculum through the day. And so I've shared with you the club leader curriculum in a PDF format. And so I thought what may be most helpful is to kind of go through each of those. One of the awesome things about this Saturday is that we're on a campus that has lots of fun trails. It's got ponds. It's got green open space, lots of places for kids to explore and have fun. And so basically that's what they're going to be doing, guided by each of their group leaders. And so the cool thing about having some older youth and LITs is no, it's not babysitting, but they can be out there engaged with the younger set, helping them think about things, asking them prompting questions. And so the first activity is called Sensory Safari, and I think I have my PDF pulled up here too. So let's, if I can click on the right spots. So what I had kind of thought we could do with Sensory Safari is go ahead and walk through each of the different safaris. We may not do Taste Safari in the first round because I'm thinking we can do some tasting a little bit later on in the day. There's another opportunity to do that, and I just don't want the activities to be duplicative. But I do think we can do the Sight Safari, the Sound Safari, the Touch Safari, and the Scent Safari. And so really, you're just guiding them through each of these components. I'm thinking there's plenty of land for each of the 4 groups to kind of pick different places to do these experiences. And so just please don't fight with each other about which part of the land you get to play on. I really like those trails behind the Ag Services building that lead up to Historic Oakview. They've redone those, and they're really really nice. But you could go off into any other part of the campus as well. And so, oops, sorry, don't get dizzy. We're going to have binoculars, collecting jars. I would encourage you, if any of you can stop by, I mean, I can just go get a bunch, but I think it'll be like, I'll get questioned and stop at the door. But if we can stop by Home Depot or something like that, or a Lowe's, or another paint supply place, just get a few swatches kind of across the rainbow, not all of one color, like get multiple colors. But one of the activities kids will do is actually match up things they see in nature with the color, so they can actually put some language to describing that color. And in their little, we'll have a few worksheets put together as a journal. They could glue stick one of those swatches in there that kind of matches one of the colors they see, so part of their sight safari. But we'll have the glue sticks and then magnifying, hand magnifying glass lenses. So for the sight safari, it's kind of what it sounds like, but you're going to have to do some front-end coaching to let young people know that they're looking for shapes, that they're looking for patterns, and that they're looking for colors. And so, and you can give some of these examples. You know, look for the outline of a tree, a flower, a leaf, a nest, a mammal, bird, insect, or plant. And so, and they can actually sketch these shapes in their journal. So that just, we're not doing the whole Club Explorer journal, but we'll have a few select pages. This is what the Club Explorer journal looks like. It's the same setup, and you actually had some screenshots of the Club Explorer journal and the facilitator's guide. There'll be some select pages to go along with the activities that we're doing, but we're not doing the whole journal. We're not going to have them sitting down and writing all day, but we'll have them doing some drawing, some collecting things, creating some things out of natural stuff. So also ask them to look for the patterns, you know, jagged edges, striped feathers of a bird, checkered bark on a tree, but you're prompting them to be explorers in this. So one of the really cool things that I like about the way this curriculum communicates is that when it comes to the experiential learning model and you're doing that reflection time, they refer to it as storytelling. And I really like that. So young people are going to get an opportunity. We could have them journaling everything, but I think I would rather us spend that time. I don't want it to feel too much like school. And so I want them to spend that time, you asking and giving each young person an opportunity to kind of tell their story. So what are the shapes that they saw? What are the colors that they saw? And what are the patterns that they saw? And so then once you debrief that, you're going to move on to the sound safari. And here, you'll notice that in each of these, young people are hopefully becoming more aware of what's going on around them, especially in nature. I know that for me, so many times I just quickly walk past things and don't consider the colors, the patterns, the shapes, the sounds, the smells. And so allowing them an opportunity to hone some of these skills and is really not only beneficial in terms of going through the curriculum, but is really a skill that if they'll apply it at some other time in their lives will be really beneficial. So the sound safari, just pick a place. I've already got my spot in mind, but I'm not going to tell you what it is because then you'll be there too, trying to get my spot.
Go ahead and tell us where you're going, Thomas.
No, because you'll be the sounds, and I don't want you to be the sounds. You'll be going out there and go, and that would be, you know, then there's a Drew in nature. And anyway, so in the sound safari, they're just going to pick a place and they can sit or lie down on the ground and just listen. So it really is just focused listening. And so have them, once they hear a sound, they can move towards it. And then nearby sounds may come from a rustle of leaves, whistle of wind, flow of water, drop of a nut from a tree, snap of a twig, or a caw of a drew. Explorers can listen to sounds of life, such as chirps, barks, meows, or maybe even a hiss. Hopefully we don't hear too many hisses, because then we'll have to freak out kids. We'll have to freak out Thomas.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The question is I don't remember seeing it in this curriculum, but is there something to talk to kids about verbs, or we don't have to call them verbs, but it would be preferable to show, you know, the movement itself, or adjectives, adverbs, because, you know, if you ask some kids, what do you hear? They'll say a bird. What kind of sound is it making now? So I think that in here.
I think that's a great point, and I would encourage us as facilitators then to incorporate some of that, because I think you're making a great point. Some of the vocabulary may not necessarily be there, but even coaching along the lines of what some of those vocab words may be could be very helpful. And so definitely take the time to do that. I see between the first and second activities, you have about 90 minutes. You'll see in my notes that between Sensory Safari and Season's Greetings, I'm encouraging you to maybe extend Sensory Safari time a little bit, and you could spend a little less time on Season's Greetings.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, Thomas, because the transition time with the kids can be significant, which will cut into the lesson time, and the lessons themselves are designated, and obviously we're not going through the whole thing. They're 60-minute lessons, so pairing out some of that, but having that transition time, the front and back end of each group. How are you going to accommodate for that? Because that's not on.
So I think that's a great point. So while I do think the building is, and I'm just going to address a few things that I hadn't even mentioned yet, and hopefully kind of come full circle around that question. The building is awesome, and I think we'll probably, you know, stop in there to get some food. I don't necessarily see this feeling as, okay, activity 1 is done, it's now time to move on to activity 2. I see this rather as a free-flowing, you don't have to move anywhere to move from activity 1 to activity 2. You can start right where you are. So right after you debrief on the site safari, you're going to say, now let's walk over here. And frankly, there are only a few activities in here that I feel like you really need to get to this one today. For the rest of it, if you take a little longer on something and transitioning between one activity and the other takes a little bit of extra time, that's okay. Stop where you are and show up at lunch at 12. That'll be important for everybody. But beyond that, I don't see a lot of really hard structure throughout the day. I see it more as a free-flowing, and you know, definitely enjoy the time with your group. Get to know them, listen to their stories, and I think we'll have enough staff so that even if we need to break up with subgroups within the group, that like one adult is listening or one older is listening to, you know, 3 or 4 stories rather than all 8, that'll be doable. So you can say, all right, let's go ahead and break up into telling your stories, and that transition can happen then. And then, you know, just not, you wouldn't want to separate your subgroups too far so that you can't communicate between adults and say it's time to move on to the next activity. But I do think that's a great point. And that's one of the other things I really love about the plan for the day, is that it'll be a very non-traditional feel for the young people, in the sense that they're basically spending the whole day outside playing. But it's guided play, it's structured play. They're being prompted to do certain things throughout the day. Did that answer the question or address the concern?
Yeah, and then the lunch break, and I'm sorry to be so picky, just knowing what it is, but so lunch is from 12 to 12:30, so they do have to come in and get cleaned up and washed, and then they line up and they eat. It doesn't take some of them very long to eat at all, and others it takes them the entire time, and they'll lag on behind. So is there that flexibility at the back end of lunch if some of them are running late, to then, how's that going to work? Because you might have kids in a group.
Yeah, I think that part's going to be pretty structured in terms of, if your whole group's ready to go, that's fine, but there won't be an option for leaving when a portion of the group is ready. I don't anticipate how that could be done, because you're not going to a room across the hall. You're going back outside.
The activity that's before lunch, it finishes at 12. But are we going to finish early so they get time to clean up, so they get the full 30 minutes for lunch? Or is that cleanup time going to be part of the lunch out, half 30 minutes?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't know that. So you're saying it does take some young people 30 minutes to eat?
It does, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, it also takes a certain amount of time to line them up to feed them,
right.
too.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're serving for lunch, but sometimes just lining up and getting their food or being served their food takes some time also.
Yeah, if you need to take until 12:40 for your group to complete, I mean, I don't know that that's a problem. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, because otherwise it's just, either we have to put some transition time in there to allow for that, so everybody stays on the same schedule, so we don't have groups scattered, because I know in the past that has really thrown kids off. But
what has really thrown kids off? Which part?
Having some kids being ready, some not, and then the staff just like, do we go, do we don't go? But it's like having a set time, this happens at this time, this happens at this time, helps everybody flow very smoothly, and to feel like there's a sense of structure. So that having that transition time built in there for the staff to see that is there, and then being able to keep everybody on the same track. So if we are all in the building, we all eat, we all clean up, and then we all leave, rather than some are left behind and then they get to clean up, because the staff, there are some staff that are designated. I don't know how you've structured that. So if that's part of what we're doing, but just having everybody.
We're doing programming. We're doing programming, if that's the question. I don't think I understand your question.
If you're going to have, as not just us, but human service, the family services staff, they are also aware that they're moving with that group, that they know that time schedule as well. And so if that they get there, their kids are having, they go and get them cleaned up and hands washed, etc., and they come in and eat, but we've got different groups finishing at different times and moving out, is that going to be in a debrief in the morning? That, so say Drew's group is finished early and they're going to leave out, it doesn't mean say your group has to suddenly get cleaned up and throw what they haven't eaten away because they need to move out too, but they can hang back and finish.
Oh, I guess I'm telling you that now. I think I just said that if your group needs until 12:40, that's fine.
Yeah, but is there a point, because it's not on this schedule, but is there a point where the human services staff get debriefed on that too, or briefed on that as well? So they're not getting it.
I can share this with Kevin. So the approach that I've been told is that, you know, they are taking care of the food and their staff know what they're doing throughout the day, and we're taking care of the program. And so that's kind of the marching orders I had and how I'm proceeding with the day. And you know, it seems to like Kevin seems to be responsive to this point. And you know, we've done several of the walk-ins and other things with their staff, you know, from the post center perspective, and I don't know that I've seen a level of, you know, real concern with some of those. That seems like a fairly minor detail. Yeah, I'm telling you now, if with your group, you can, if you need until 12:40 to get everybody through lunch, that's fine.
Thomas, just a point, having been at several Super Saturdays, and Tex has done a few as well, Gina, we also have to build in under that group orientation a period of time for what the group norms are, because these kids are not going to know us, and we have to let them know in that group orientation not only who the groups are, but what we're expecting behaviorally. And some of these kids are going to probably, since we're going to be out in the woods, at some point, the kids may say, I need to use the bathroom, and someone's going to have to take them to the bathroom, especially the younger 8-9-year-olds who are in the group. I definitely recommend you within your group, you know, take some bathroom breaks with the whole group throughout the morning. I don't know that I'm going to schedule bathroom breaks. I think, you know, you as the facilitators can just say, all right, it's time. And then if you're closer to Historic Oakview, you can walk up to that restroom. If you're closer to the Ag Services building, you can walk back to that one. But that I would leave to the human services staff to kind of manage the restroom breaks, if I were you. Bring that up because there is a possibility that the sensory safari may take a lot longer, and their, you know, season's greetings, whatever that curriculum is, you know, may be very, very short based on some of those dynamics. And that just built into the free flow that you're talking about.
Are you going to have some kind of an identification for each group, like color coordinated, so they know which group they need to be with?
I had not planned anything like that, no.
Kevin going to?
I don't know the answer to that. I know he has in the past. I know he has whenever they've done groupings at the overnight lock-ins, but I have not asked him if he's planning to do that or not.
You want to go ahead and...
All right, so...
playing naturally.
Well, let's finish talking about the sensory safari and then move on to season's greetings. So very much the same way that you're doing the sight and sound, you're going to go ahead and do the touch. And so Gina, I think going back to those verbs and the adverbs and language, helping young people, maybe prompting them with certain words that may help them think about how certain things feel. Be sure that they don't grab poison ivy. That would not be a highlight for them or us or their caregivers.
There's a lot back there in along those trails, so we got to watch out.
What's that?
There's a lot of poison ivy on the sides of those trails, so we got to watch out.
So, you may want to not necessarily do your touch safari on a trail. You may want to do that, or you can, but just, make sure you point out to them not to touch the poison ivy.
Well, I think this is a perfect opportunity to show them what poison ivy is.
You're absolutely right.
You don't want to do this. You don't want to touch it. Yeah.
That's a life lesson right there.
Yes, it is. It definitely is.
And if you're stuck in the woods and you don't have toilet paper, you don't want to use this to wipe.
That's right.
I had a friend that did that.
Oh no! Say that ain't so.
It was, and he got it really bad too. So.
Oh, I bet. Oh my. Well, and so then finally, so they're going to do the touch safari again. Let them tell their stories, and then finish up with the scent safari. And so let them smell a flower or a fallen fruit. Smell bark, leaves. Again, not the poison ivy leaves. And then notice as a group, try to, amongst the group, come up with 10 unique natural scents. So have them kind of collect those and see what all they can come up with. And then, of course, in your debrief, you can actually have them share those scents around with one another. So as I mentioned earlier, we're not going to do the taste safari right now. There will be an opportunity later in the day to do some tasting. So I can see how that would easily take, closer to an hour or maybe even a little bit longer. For Trail 2, we're looking at Season's Greetings. And this is a great activity if we end up having groups over time. But since we're only going to be looking at spring right now, then it's going to be a little bit more challenging. But you can still discuss what are some of the things that we see taking place in spring, and then identifying those outside. So so the first activity is Signs of the Season, and again, they can have their binoculars. There should be plenty for several pairs per group. So what are animals doing? What do they see with plant life? And then I think you can still discuss story-wise, how do you think that might be different during other seasons? And so I think this we should be able to do it, and it says 60 minutes. I don't think this is a 60-minute activity. And I think you came in a little bit later after I had already said that, Drew pointed out that in the curriculum, a lot of these say 60 minutes, and we've only allocated 45. The reality is 4-H has a tendency to not necessarily put realistic time frames on many of the activities. For example, one we were looking at for the SciTech Expo was creating your own weather vane or wind vane, and it's like a 15-minute activity, but 4-H said it was a 60-minute activity. You're going to have kids with a lot of time flipping a pencil on top of a paper cup if you do that. So my point being that not every activity is the exact time that they say it is. So I think you could probably do this in less than half an hour. especially since we're not taking the time necessarily to. Now, I would like for them to do some drawing. You know, what are some things that they see in the spring, and they could even write a little poem about the spring. But good luck with that. I would think maybe more along the lines of doing some
Thomas,
drawing.
what kind of supplies are you having for all the 35 kids to have stuff to draw and paper and all that kind of thing? What are you pulling together?
So there will be a little mini version of the journal that I showed you just a minute ago. Remember, I held this up for you and pointed out that I was going to be doing select sheets from this journal. Okay, so they'll have that. And then the other supplies are in the folder that I shared with you. So they'll have some pairs of binoculars for each group, some collecting jars, the colored paint swatches. I'm asking if we can do our best to collect some of those between now and Saturday.
Okay.
Swing into the Home Depot or Lowe's and get a rainbow of fun colors. But the colored pencils, glue sticks, magnets, all those other items that we need will be purchased and on hand. Excuse me, for the day. Does that answer your question, Drew?
Yeah, they're going to do all of this out in the nature. So are they getting something that they can write against the paint and
Yeah. No, I hadn't necessarily thought we would get clipboards or something like that. Just because that's a lot of clipboards, number one. And I think we can, if we need to go over to the pavilion and sit down at a table, or if we need to stop at the amphitheater, excuse me, on the trails, that's still back there, isn't it? The amphitheater, or in one of the gazebos. There should be some hard places to write on it. If you think that clipboard, if every young person, I'm just like, I can see not positive things happening with clipboards too. But if you think that clipboards will be helpful, I can add that to the list.
I think it's fine without it. You know, it gives them the opportunity to think and come up with other ideas on what they can use to write, you know?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think sometimes we oversupply.
Yeah.
And we can do that, but at the same time, you know, I really want this to be a time for them to get a little bit dirty, get their hands dirty. I want them to enjoy being outside, overcome some of the fears that are associated with nature and bugs and plants. Oh, that plant touched me. You know, I've seen young people react that way in the past, that, you know, they brushed up against a tree. It was a big deal. And so really, you know, while we are going through the curriculum to kind of structure it and give new ideas of things to do, things to talk about throughout the day, the purpose here is really to let them enjoy being outside without a video game for the day.
And there's plenty of like smooth trees too that they can find, that they can write. Or
yeah.
And then they learn things about trees and so forth. So
this is going to feel a little bit more like camp, I think, than maybe the typical Super Saturday or typical 4-H experience, 4-H group. This is more outside and feeling a little more like camp, I hope.
Catherine just called me in for the meeting, so I'm going to let Emma just stay here and somehow I'll get caught up with you later or watch the recording. But I've got to go to that meeting, and Emma's just going to stay here at my desk.
Perfect. And yeah, we'll share that recording out later this afternoon, so you'll be able to pick up right where this moment when you're standing up and walking out, you'll be able to pick up right here.
Wow. Okay.
Amazing technology.
Emma may take over
Bye,
your
Reveiw.
office while you're gone.
Have fun meeting. All right. So again, season's greetings is just about recognizing the signs of the seasons. And they have a recommendation here of adopting a plant, flower, or something like that, and kind of observing it over time. You know, I don't think we're really going to have capacity to do that that day. So moving on to playing naturally, there are three basic components to playing naturally, and it's, you know, being active, creative, and then having a little bit of a challenge, a little nature challenge. So one of the activities that I really liked in this one was that young people would build their own little village or other kind of structure, but all out of natural things that they find outside. So out of twigs, leaves, cones, rocks. They're gonna, maybe a little bit of dirt to hold it all together, but they're gonna build their own structure. And so, but first, just being outside, the first thing we wanted to do is just be active. And so you could even talk about some fun things to do outside. I'm trying to move. I like seeing all of you, but you're in my way. Let's move you up here. They could go out and look for natural landmarks, things like that, which Historic Oakview Park lends itself to that very nicely. You know, they could find certain things on campus that are neat or unique, but really just up and moving. Maybe you could even play a game of tag or something like that in the big open field, but just have fun. And then shift to the second activity, which is around being creative. And this is the one that I was telling you that I really like. They use their natural materials and found objects to make something. And so they can pile them up, line them up, stick them in the dirt. You could break them up into groups of two that they could work together, or they could each build their own thing. I wouldn't do the full group for this, just because you'll have some that then won't necessarily engage as much. So really like small subgroups, and you could have one of your teens or one of your LITs or just one of the older youth kind of be little mini group leaders in this to help them come up with some creative things to do. And then I would encourage, you know, I don't know how many cameras we'll have, but it would be great to take pictures of what they create. So at least we will have our phones and can take some pictures. But they can make castles, they can make forts. What else? They can make their own little civilization, mini villages. They could make an artistic sculpture. So it doesn't have to be a fort or a village. It could be a sculpture. But they can make ornaments. So give them plenty of time to do this. I think it's between the playing active, maybe doing a quick game of tag, and then doing this. This will be really fun, and I think they'll have a great time. Be sure to allow at least a few minutes to let them tell their stories about their creations. You know, because each one will have a unique story, and maybe even talk a little bit about how they decided on that, what inspired them, and then talk a little bit about what they enjoyed about the activity. So there's some, again, group storytelling session, and here's some prompting questions that you can ask them about what they created. So then it's time for lunch. And so again, I think that's a great point, Emma, that, you know, while we're saying 30 minutes, the reality is it may take longer or shorter than that. Do ensure that each group does clean up after themselves. And so not leaving, you know, like being responsible. So I think the other thing that, and we'll get more to it in the second half of the day, is really about individual responsibility for our own behaviors and our own actions. And we're going to start moving at this point into how do our actions and behaviors impact our environment for good or for bad. And so this is actually a good time to even start talking a little bit about personal responsibility, and that, you know, what if we were eating outside? And some of you, you know, I don't know what their lunch plan is, but you may decide your group even wants to go outside and eat at one of the gazebos, or out on the benches or something like that. But if we're eating outside, what do we need to be sure to do with our stuff? And the same kind of thing inside is that, you know, stuff gets put where it belongs. So recyclables versus trash. And while I don't think we have composting ability at the Ag Services building, we still talk a little bit about, you know, composting and the value of that. So then we're going to move into the first after lunch activity, which is called Where Are the Wild Things? So you can tell there's a little play there. I thought about getting the book, but and Where the Wild Things Are, and doing some reading there. But I think we're just going to keep it. That's just one extra step, and I think we're going to have a full fun day anyway. So here, challenge participants to observe wildlife in multiple activities. So are they burrowing? Are squirrels burrowing? Or are they gathering nuts? Or, you know, are birds, you know, what are birds doing if they're flying? And is mama bird feeding baby birds? Like, what all is going on? Have them really observe what are they doing? And not only to look for movement, you know, them actually doing that, but what are the evidences that they're doing those things? Like nests, feathers. Is there a hole? Like if they see a hole along one of the trails, what could that be? Bones. Ooh, that's scary, etc. Be sure to use your field guides. So we are purchasing, or we'll have on hand some field guides that they can read through, but also using their binoculars. That's going to be super cool to spend the day looking through binoculars. And then, again, when it's time to tell stories, use some of the prompting questions from the curriculum. We'll go ahead and jump back over and look at that. And if you have any questions as we're going, again, please, I've appreciated the interactions and thoughts from you guys.
I love this. I love the curriculum so far, Thomas.
Yeah, it's so super cool. I mean, and I feel like it's, you know, it does a few things. Number one, this is a STEM curriculum. Now, it doesn't come across as a STEM curriculum, but part of the scientific method is making observations and then asking and trying to answer questions from what you see. And so while they're not playing necessarily with test tubes, they are collecting dirt and bugs and leaves and examining them under microscopes. And they're being able to observe beyond just, oh, what'd you see? Like Gina said, a bird. Yeah, but beyond that, what what else did you see? What was the context for that bird? What were the colors of that bird? What was that bird doing? What kind of sounds was it making? Was it on the ground or was it in a tree? Was it flying or was it walking around? So all of those are skills that scientists need. And so building those observational skills is really beneficial. So it really is just a fantastic curriculum. I 100% agree.
Well, can I make a suggestion? Because obviously the kids are going to be out and about moving, but knowing that they also like to sit down, and they're going to be sitting down and observing quietly to see what comes out and play. But we each take, just for economical, grocery bags for the kids to sit on, because even though it's supposed to be a dry week, the ground's going to be wet, and some of them will refuse to sit down, but want to sit down. And then there's going to be this moment of like, I don't want to do this anymore. So just take something for the kids to actually sit on, and grocery bags are probably the easiest thing to keep tucked away.
Great idea.
So I have a question about the jars. Are we married to glass jars for this activity?
No, I think they're, what we had said that we were going to get were these. And they've got kind of a built-in magnifier top,
Okay.
so that once they put it in there, they'll actually, I mean, they're going to have handheld magnifying glasses, but this will be kind of cool too, in that, they'll be able to look through the top. And it says bug viewer, but we can put whatever we want to in it, right? It doesn't have to be a bug. It could be a leaf. It could be dirt. It could be water. But
Is it gonna be like one
yeah, so I don't.
Group to share and be able to look at something and then put it back?
Can you say that again?
Is this going to be for each group to share, to put something in it and have a look, or there's going to be a system for them to collect, take back?
Yeah, so it'll be used multiple times. Notice I'm getting 20 of them, or I'm asking for 20. I don't know what I'll get. I'm asking for 20 of them because I feel like that would be about one for every pair of young people. And so, yes, you could collect, examine, and then empty out for the next time you want to collect and look at something. So I don't think we're collecting to keep here. I think we're collecting to examine and then return.
I asked about the connection, or if we wanted glass jars or jars, is that there's an activity called the spirit bag, and we can use Ziploc bags so that they can see it. As long as they have other magnifying glasses, then they'll be able to see whatever is in there, and they can easily show it to people in their circle or wherever. And it's a connection to Native American lore.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, we used to make spirit bags out of brown paper bags, but we can use a Ziploc so that the kids can actually see it, and then they take it with them. It's not just, we did this, now we're going to dump it. It's like, no, be careful in what you choose, because this is a part of your spirit bag. You're going to carry this day with you always, or for a long time.
That's cool.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I like that idea. And I'm pretty sure the Ziploc bags aren't $5 a piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So no, I'm not married to jars, and I think that's a great comment. Then if they want to keep it, like you said, and we could definitely do that. So I think that's a great suggestion.
Thank you.
As a matter of fact, let's just go ahead and
Ziploc quart size.
And I like that part too about emphasizing be careful what you choose, because then it makes them cognizant of what they're picking and taking away from nature.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, fantastic. So we'll scroll on down here. So, and I think we could do the same thing with the water. You can put water in a Ziploc bag too, right? That would work there as well. Okay. Because next up, we're talking about our natural treasures, and just spending some time considering what some of those are. But specifically, we're going to spend some time talking about water. And recognizing that treasures are something that you value and that you do your best to take care of. We can start talking a little bit more about that responsibility that we have to take care of our natural treasures. But, and they can, in their journal, they can draw some pictures of the natural treasures that they see around them. And then there are several, opportunities to get to some water. I can think specifically of the one down behind the Commons building, but then also over there by the pavilions. So there are a couple of locations, and you can go on opposite sides of it so you don't feel like your group's on top of another group.
And Heather said we've got nets borrowed from soil and water.
I'm sorry, Emma, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so Heather said she's borrowing nets from soil and water.
So Heather is getting some nets. Is that what you said? Something about nets? And she may be getting them from soil and water. I don't know where she sourced them. She just told me that we weren't going to have to buy them because she found some.
Yeah, soil and water.
Cool. Yes. So, and definitely, gathering some water, just observing, and then talking about ways that, and looking through the magnifying glass again, because we will have some handheld lenses. They can look at their bags, but they can also just look around their natural treasures and see what are the signs of life. And then talking about those, and then coming up with, you guys as a group, come up with strategies of things that you can do, for example, to protect our water or to protect any of our other natural treasures. So we're nearing the end of the day, and a couple of activities that I think will be fun that I really want to be sure that we get to. One is creating wildflower seed balls, and those directions are actually in the kids' journal, and so I will scan those. Right now, I'll just tell you what it says. I don't remember what page it was on. So the facilitator's journal references it, but it's in the caught up here. Basically, they're creating a ball of dirt with wildflower seeds, native wildflower seeds in them, and so they can then take that ball of dirt home and throw it somewhere in their neighborhood, and or they could see if they're allowed to throw it at school, but just finding a cool place to help. And then again, this goes to the personal responsibility, so basically they're planting wildflowers, but they're doing it they're doing the work with us here, but then they can actually go do the planting quickly and easily anywhere. Well, I am not finding that quickly. Here we go. So they're going to have the soil, a little bit of compost, and then the native wildflower seed mix, and then some water. And they'll mix it using their hands or their feet. We'll have them do their hands. And then they're going to slowly add water, not too little, or it will be dry and crumbly, and not too much, or it will be wet and muddy. Mix it until it feels like cake mix. Pinch off small chunks and roll into smooth, round balls about the size of a quarter. And then place the seed balls on a dry surface. But they'll actually have to put them probably in another one of those Ziploc bags and take them home and let them dry out. So basically, you let it dry for 24 hours. So they can take them home and let them dry out. And then, if possible, toss during times of mild temperatures and rainfall. Avoid tossing seed balls during times of extreme weather or seasonal conditions. So this will be a perfect time of year for them to take their seed ball somewhere and contribute to the natural treasures that we have around us. So I really, if we have to shorten some other things or not do something, if you find that, wow, you know, this activity really did take a full hour, it took so much longer, then cut something else so that you can fit this in. But I think giving them something to be able to do with what they've learned is really important. And then I made that. Oh, and then also spend some time to go to the Oakview Herb Garden. If you're familiar with that, it's right up behind the house. And let them, you know, see what they smell. But then we'll also, this is where we'll do a little taste test from something that's grown locally. So here we're talking, so even the wildflower seeds that we're going to get, I'll ensure that those are local wildflowers. But yeah, just really talking about things growing where they are and being a part of that. So then eco action, discuss with participants what they might want to do to help take care of our environment. This might be where they can use that grocery bag that they've been sitting on all day, because this is what I was going to have some trash bags anyways. So let them generate some ideas of what they might be able to do, and then spend some time just going around campus and finding trash that they can pick up. And you know, again, this is really end of day kind of a service project. I have snack from 3:30 to 3:45. You can put the snack break in wherever you want to with your group. As I understand, they're going to have food in the morning, something light for them in the morning, something light at lunch, and then a snack. So again, you can fit that in whenever you sense that your group is ready for it. But I'm thinking at this point, you know, it's late afternoon, it's a couple hours after lunch, this might be a good time for it. The final activity that they may or may not get to, and this is something that I can also use your help in sourcing, is this green living activity has to do with upcycling something that might otherwise be going in the trash. So they reference things like an old flower pot, a shoebox, a tin can, or a damaged bike helmet, and basically turning them into a flower pot. And so we'll have some soil there and some seeds that they can create their own flower pot out of something that is being upcycled. So if you could bring in a few items that are around the house. I'm sorry?
So I wish I'd known. I just took a whole bunch of stuff to recycling to the dump.
Oh, no. Oh, well. hopefully there'll still be some items around that we can pull together. And then finally, if you still have time after that, have participants draw what they think the world can look like in the future. If they're good stewards of their environment, remind them of some of today's activities, and take time to have each young person show their future world and tell their story. So that's gonna, if you get through all of that, you'll have done quite well, because that is a full day of activity. So again, the expectation is not that you get through all of it. It really is to the point. Keep the point in mind. This is what I want to major on, is what we're trying to accomplish here. And I think there are a few, kind of big objectives. One is get young people outside and having fun. Yeah. 2, walk them through this experience with the experiential learning model. And so by going through a 4-H curriculum, we're doing that. And then finally, just show them that you care about them and do the things that you always do that are so beneficial and rewarding for the young people that you interact with. So my final note here is thank you for your time and effort in bringing this group of kiddos through a 4-H curriculum. So that's the other thing we've done. Even if we don't do every single activity, we will have gone through the process of going through a 4-H curriculum. Have them complete the evaluation, which I'll have those available for you. Just a few questions about their experience for the day. And they can continue one of their projects until they're picked up. So if they're still working on their drawing or still working on their upfitted flower pot, then they can do that. So I do see us by this time of the day that, for this last activity, we've moved back to the building. We might still be outside, right out back of the building or something like that, but we kind of bring it back in so that when their caregiver comes to pick them up, they're easy to get hold of.
So Thomas, what time did you say to get there in the morning?
I think if you're there by 8:30, we'll be fine.
Okay.
But have you decided who's going to do what age group?
I don't know, Emma, what's wrong with Drew's microphone, but for some reason I keep not being able to hear you.
Have you determined how you're going to split the groups up and who's having which group, or you're doing that the morning of?
So my understanding from what Kevin sent me, so I will say historically, my experiences with Kevin is that he likes to split up the groups. But my understanding is that most of the young people are, come on, Gmail, do your thing.
Yes, I know there's some itty bitties, and then you've got the bigger kids. And so it's just like, is that what's going to happen? So to keep them in age and maturity wise together.
Yes, that would be the intent.
Do you want
to? Let me see if I can move you guys again so I can see this. It says, so he's got 23 5 to 9. So I'm thinking, it looks like there's probably 2 groups, maybe even 3 groups with, well, actually, if we move some of the 9-year-olds with the 10 to 12s, we may do better off that way. We'll just have to see what the actual ages are when they show up. But yes, by age.
Yeah,
so there would be
just going
Go
through the
ahead.
curriculum, if we know what their age, if we know, like if you tell me what age group, if I've got, you know, the smaller, younger kids, 5 through 7 type year olds, or if I've got the 10, 12-year-olds, I can know exactly how I'm going to think about that curriculum running through with the kids, because even though it's the same subject, it's going to be handled differently with a 5-year-old and a 12-year-old.
Right. Do you have a preference? Do you have a preference?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you guys tell me if you do have a preference, because I definitely want to put people with where they're most comfortable. Anybody have a preference?
I do not.
Tex?
Tex, we can't hear
Can't
you.
hear you.
Middle school?
Middle school?
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. So Tex will put with the 10 to 12. And the 13 plus, I think we were talking about divvying those up amongst the groups to kind of be helpers. Correct. So, and I'll push back on Kevin one more time and see if he's got any more updates. But it sounds like Tex will take the older group and everybody else will have a younger group.
I don't know if it will happen this time, Thomas, but like it's happened to me that we have a certain amount that is signed up, and then we get a whole bunch more day off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or a whole bunch less.
Well, that might happen to the start, but that didn't happen at the end. So yeah, so just be prepared that there may be a few more that we'll add into the groups and divvy up then.
Thanks for that warning. I know with the lock-in, we always had just limited it and said, you didn't get in, you didn't get in. But so knowing that Super Saturday is kind of like come one, come all, that's good to know. Okay.
Deal with it when it's less kids, but when it's more kids and you don't know that's going to happen, it can throw things off a bit.
That's a good word. I'll check with I'll mention that to Kevin too, and see. Do you have any specific advice for if that happens?
Well, it's just making sure that whoever we know that they are put in the appropriate groups, and that there are the supplies available for them. Just having extra stuff just in case. Are you going to drive all this stuff up there so it's in the back of a car and handy to hand out, or are we just going to carry it with us as we go?
So say that again.
So the supplies that we have for the different activities. So obviously there might be different things for the afternoon and the evening and from the morning, but we're going to take that with us, or are you going to take it all in the back of a car, like all their pencils and drawing stuff? Are they going to have it in something for themselves, or are we carrying it for them?
Yeah, you'll probably be carrying it in a bag. I'll have some kind of a bag put together for you.
So I'm thinking Emma can't be carrying that bag, and I'm not sure about Tex because of back injury.
So they may not have to be the ones carrying the bag. We'll have the
like the teens would help.
We'll have the LITs. We'll have some of our GIS young people who are going to be there to help for the day, and then we'll have the older youth. I mean, that would be a great older youth assistant job, as you're kind of like in charge of our materials for the day. And being sure that everything gets where it needs to go.
I'll hire a Sherpa. How about that?
There you go. That's a great idea. We might have a volunteer Sherpa for you for the day.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the reality is, Emma, even if I did drive to some other location with some supplies, you're still probably not going to be near a parking lot all the time or near that. So I think it's just going to be the nature of having to pack stuff in and pack stuff out for the day.
Well, maybe we can take some of the carts with us, the little rolly carts. Yeah.
I don't know how well those will necessarily do on different terrains, but if
They do pretty
if
well.
they'll work well.
Yeah,
Okay.
they do pretty well, and I think that, you know, the older kids probably have better command of them anyway.
Right.
So
Put
Perfect.
their snacks.
Yeah.
In there.
Do we have 4 of those?
One in my office.
I think there are some. Yep, I believe there are 4.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, they would love a task where they're assigned taking care of the cart
Yeah.
for the day. You know, I would. That seems like a great task to me.
And they can carry water too.
Yeah.
It's going to be a nice day. Then the kids are going to need to be hydrated. So have the bottles and write on their bottles who's and keep it in that cart.
Yeah, perfect.
Be the home base.
That's right.
Decorate your cart with the wild things. No, the wild
Hey, that's a cool idea.
About that.
We're gonna have additional activities to put onto the curriculum. We'll have to make some recommendations. No, you guys are all professionals, and I know you're gonna facilitate masterfully and give the appropriate prompts and keep in mind the things that this is a great thing about just working with a team of professionals. This is what you do, and but I think it's just a great opportunity for these young people too, just to really, it's not but, and it's a great.
Thomas, and I appreciate you advocating for this, is to splitting these groups into small groups, because they really need the smaller numbers and the closer age ranges. It's just the dynamics of the group, and so this is just really, 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 really good. So
Good.
Thank you for making sure that happens.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you for the curriculum, and thank you for pulling this together.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, they're going to have a good memory, right? They're going to have something and a neat experience, and it's right here. It's not we're not going anywhere, but it's like a full day field trip. So
they love to go see the goats and just and it swings from like, we want to go outside, and then they've been outside, we want to go in, can we go in now? It depends on the weather. But
yeah.
The fact that if they already know this is what we're going to do, and we're going to be outside and we're going to go in for lunch, and so I think it's a refreshing change for them, for sure.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't feel at all like school. All right. Excellent. Me too. All right. So if you have any other thoughts, comments, questions, you can speak them now. Oh, okay. So since nobody else had anything, I'm just playing. What else? Any other thoughts, comments, or questions?
Yeah, Thomas, I need to talk to you for a little bit about some other information. So can you either call me or I can call you?
Sure.
Or let them hang up and we'll continue to talk. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, we can let them hang up and I'll turn off the recording and we can talk.
All right.
Okay. See you.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Drew.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Bye, Drew. All right,
Drew.
let me. I'm gonna stop the recording.
Drew's back.
Want to stop it?